Now she's teasing a big announcement that she claims will result in some of her opponents being arrested and charged.
A Dalton home that she leased to Mayor Tiffany Henyard has filed eviction papers. She says Henyard has...
In the small Illinois community of Dune, the leadership of Mayor Tiffany Henyard has become embroiled in a political firestorm that feels more like a reality TV scandal than a local government issue. Once seen as a rising political star, Henyard is now accused of corruption, mismanagement, and a series of scandals that have only intensified the turmoil within the village. The most shocking development came when local figure Chris Gonzalez publicly accused Henyard of orchestrating the theft of over $2 million in public funds. These funds, originally designated for essential community services and development projects, appear to have vanished under her administration. Gonzalez claims that the money was diverted toward dubious contracts, luxury expenses, and personal gain, all at the expense of Dune's taxpayers. His accusations, made at a recent town meeting, were met with outrage from residents, and he was not alone in his criticism. Tensions between Henyard and the village trustees have reached a boiling point, with hostility between her and local officials growing at nearly every public gathering. The scandal has shaken the village to its core, leaving residents in a state of unease. With questions swirling about the extent of Henyard's abuse of power, the community fears that things may soon spiral beyond repair. The situation worsened with further allegations of misappropriation of public funds. Some projects under her administration have been seen as more focused on boosting her personal image than actually benefiting the community. One of the most controversial examples came during the summer, when banners featuring Henyard's face and the phrase "Super Mayor" were posted along a major route through Dune. While seemingly harmless, the village trustees condemned the project, calling it inappropriate use of public resources to promote the mayor's personal brand. When workers were instructed to remove the banners, Henyard took the matter to the police, demanding charges be filed against those responsible. To make matters worse, the village still owes $2,000 to the vendor who created the banners, a bill that remains unpaid despite the public backlash as a series of missteps and controversies continues to unfold. Henyard's leadership is increasingly under scrutiny, with accusations of corruption, misuse of funds, and a blatant disregard for public trust. Many wonder if her tenure will lead to the village's collapse. As Dune's residents and political observers watch closely, it seems clear that Tiffany Henyard's time as mayor may soon come to an end, leaving the community to pick up the pieces of what's left behind.
The business, now let the business handle us. That's what we are elected to do, sir.
In Dune, a small community in Illinois, the political landscape has become a battleground, with Mayor Tiffany Henyard's leadership at the center of a mounting storm. What was once hailed as a promising tenure is now mired in allegations of corruption, mismanagement, and growing legal trouble. The situation has grown so contentious that it has become impossible to ignore. One of the more shocking developments came when local figure Chris Gonzalez accused Mayor Henyard of orchestrating the theft of over $2 million in public funds. These funds were originally allocated for vital community services and infrastructure development, but Gonzalez claims the money was instead redirected toward questionable contracts and luxury expenses. The funds were allegedly used to benefit the mayor personally, all at the expense of Dune's taxpayers. Gonzalez's accusations, voiced during a recent public meeting, sent shockwaves through the community. His remarks were met with strong disapproval from the public, and he was far from the only one questioning the mayor's leadership. Tensions between Henyard and the village trustees have escalated, with animosity between the mayor and her fellow officials becoming palpable at nearly every public gathering. The situation has only worsened as the mayor faces scrutiny over her management of public funds. Henyard's administration has been accused of misappropriating taxpayer money for projects that seem to have little to do with the needs of the community. One particularly controversial move came during the summer, when banners emblazoned with the phrase "Super Mayor" and a large image of Henyard were placed along a main route through Dune. While the banners might have seemed innocuous at first, they were immediately criticized by the village trustees. They argued that the banners were nothing more than a misuse of public resources to promote the mayor's personal brand. When workers attempted to remove the banners, Henyard reportedly took the matter to police, demanding charges be filed against those responsible. As if that wasn't enough, the village still owes $2,000 to the vendor who produced the banners, a bill that is yet to be paid despite the public outcry. These issues have left the village in a state of turmoil, and the cracks in Henyard's leadership have only grown wider. In addition to the allegations of financial mismanagement, Henyard's personal life has come under fire. The mayor is now facing a lawsuit from her landlord, who claims that Henyard and her boyfriend have not paid rent on their property since August, despite the couple reportedly making over $300,000 a year from taxpayer-funded salaries. The landlord has also raised issues about maintenance problems, claiming that the garage codes were changed, making it difficult for the mayor to access the property. Yet, despite the mounting rent arrears, Henry has made no moves to resolve the situation, further aggravating her critics. The situation has spiraled into a legal battle, with the landlord accusing Henry of neglecting her responsibilities both as a tenant and as mayor amid this growing controversy. Henry has remained defiant, refusing to acknowledge the severity of the accusations against her. She seems more concerned with maintaining her super mayor persona than dealing with the pressing issues facing her community. In a particularly telling moment during a public meeting, the mayor responded to criticism by saying, "Many of you come to this mic and talk about nothing. Nothing. And when I say nothing, you're talking about Tiffany Henyard," dismissing the concerns of residents as insignificant. This remark stunned many in the audience, further alienating Henyard from the very people she is supposed to serve. Her sarcastic dismissal of valid concerns exemplifies her growing detachment from reality and her refusal to engage with the issues that are hurting Dune despite the public outrage. Henyard continued to lash out at those who challenge her leadership. At another recent board meeting, she publicly threatened to press charges against those she accused of wronging her. This move was widely seen as an attempt to deflect attention from the ongoing problems in the village, shifting the focus away from the financial mismanagement, legal troubles, and mounting public discontent. Her critics, however, see this as another example of her avoidance of substantive engagement with the community's most pressing issues. One of the most recent flashpoints in the ongoing political crisis in Dune was Henry's controversial appointment of Ronald Boer as the new head of the police department. The appointment raised immediate concerns among the village trustees and other local officials, especially after it was revealed that Boer was marked as inactive by the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board due to missing paperwork and failure to meet requalification standards. The board strongly advised that Boer be removed from public service until the issues surrounding his certification were resolved. However, Henry pressed ahead with her decision, securing a judge's approval for Boer's appointment as interim head for 30 days, while a permanent replacement was sought. This move has further strained Henry's relationship with the village trustees, who have voiced strong objections to her disregard for proper procedure and governance standards. They have indicated that they may take further legal action to block Boer's appointment, citing concerns about the potential negative impact on public safety and the integrity of the local government. The appointment of Boer is seen by many as yet another example of Henry's tendency to make decisions unilaterally, without consulting key stakeholders or considering the long-term consequences. For her critics, this move exemplifies her reckless management style and disregard for the well-being of the community. The growing controversy surrounding Boer's appointment has become a central issue in the broader dispute between Henry and her opponents. Critics argue that her decision to appoint Boer, despite the warnings from a state law enforcement board, demonstrates a lack of accountability and a disregard for the public's concerns. At a time when Dune is struggling with deep financial issues and public mistrust, many believe that Henry's focus should be on resolving the community's most urgent problems rather than pursuing politically motivated appointments that only serve to further alienate her from the village's residents. In addition to the legal issues surrounding her tenure, Henry has faced increasing criticism from former political leaders, including Lori Lightfoot, the former mayor of Chicago. Lightfoot recently joined the growing chorus of critics who have blamed Henry for the worsening financial situation in Dune. According to Lightfoot, millions of dollars in government funds that were intended for infrastructure and community development projects have either been stolen or misused, deepening the village's financial crisis. This latest round of accusations has only intensified the pressure on Henry, who has thus far refused to acknowledge the gravity of the allegations against her local residents, are also growing more frustrated with Henry's refusal to address the underlying issues facing Dune. Many are questioning what happened to the millions of dollars that were allocated for the village's improvement projects, as it seems that much of that money has been misappropriated or lost. The mounting financial problems, combined with the ongoing legal battles, have left many wondering if Dune will ever recover from the damage caused by Henry's administration. Despite all of this, Henry's supporters continue to rally behind her, arguing that she is simply standing firm in the face of what they see as unwarranted attacks. They insist that her bold approach is necessary to move Dune forward and push back against those who seek to undermine her leadership. However, for many others, her refusal to engage with the serious concerns of the community only serves to validate their fears that she is unwilling or unable to address the problems plaguing the village. One particularly telling exchange occurred when Henry's landlord was asked about her ongoing tenant issues. In response, the landlord bluntly remarked, "Karma will eventually come up with you. Just pay your rent." This comment underscores a growing frustration not only with Henry's personal issues, but also with her failure to address the many problems facing Dune. Henry, for her part, continues to deny any wrongdoing. She dismisses her critics as politically motivated and argues that they are obstructing the village's progress. Yet, as the legal and political pressure mounts, it's becoming increasingly clear that her leadership is on shaky ground. With a growing number of legal challenges, public anger, and mounting dissatisfaction from residents, the question now is how much longer Henry can hold on to power. Her critics argue that her refusal to address the real issues facing the village, along with her tendency to make decisions unilaterally and without transparency, has only deepened the crisis. For many, it's hard to see how Dune can move forward under her leadership. As the pressure continues to build, residents are left wondering if Tiffany Henyard will be forced to step down, or if the mounting weight of public discontent will ultimately lead to her downfall. The community's future now hinges on whether she can weather the storm, or if the unraveling of her leadership will take Dune with it amid the growing scandal surrounding her leadership. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's combative and dismissive attitude has only deepened the divide between her and the residents of Dune. At a recent village board meeting, in a further attempt to assert her authority, Henyard boldly declared, "I'm going to press charges and try to get the people implicated arrested," signaling her ongoing confrontational approach toward those who have criticized her. Many in the audience saw this as a tactic to appease her detractors rather than address the core issues plaguing the village, highlighting her unwillingness to engage constructively with the concerns of the people she is supposed to represent. This confrontational approach has only intensified as Henyard faces growing legal scrutiny. The recent appointment of Ronald Boer as the new police chief has drawn significant backlash and further legal complications. Critics have questioned her decision-making process, citing a lack of transparency and accountability. Boer's appointment has only fueled calls for more responsibility from a mayor, with many seeing it as yet another example of Henry's controversial leadership style, one marked by rash decisions and a disregard for opposing viewpoints. As these issues deepen, the gap between Henry and her political opponents continues to widen, putting her hold on power in jeopardy despite mounting criticism and internal strife. Henry's supporters argue that she is simply standing firm in the face of what they perceive to be unjustified attacks. Her obstinate refusal to address the very real issues facing her constituents, however, has compounded her problems. The mounting pressure, combined with her self-assured and almost defiant demeanor, paints a picture of a leader determined to hold on to power at any cost, even as the ground beneath her seems to steadily erode. As Henry gears up for re-election, the stakes have never been higher. In a recent Facebook post, Henry announced her intention to run for a second term as mayor, a move that has sparked significant backlash, particularly from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Lightfoot, one of Henry's most vocal critics, has accused the mayor of financial mismanagement, claiming that millions of dollars in public funds have been siphoned off for personal gain. According to Lightfoot, initiatives meant to benefit the community have disappeared without explanation, with reports suggesting that some of the missing funds were diverted to Henry's personal lifestyle, funding lavish private parties and luxury purchases, rather than vital community services or infrastructure development. These accusations have struck a nerve with many residents of Dune, who are already frustrated by the town's underfunded schools, inadequate public services, and growing budget deficit. Lightfoot didn't hold back in her critique, stating, "The people of Dune deserve accountability and transparency, and Mayor Henry has failed them on both counts. You don't even have the decency to look us in the face, but you'd rather just steal our money and do what you want to do." Her scathing comments have only intensified public scrutiny of Henry's administration and highlighted the stark contrast between her lavish lifestyle and the struggles of the residents. The disparity between the mayor's personal expenditures and the deteriorating state of essential services in Dune has only fueled outrage. Local activist James Carter captured the community's frustration when he said, "We've seen our town struggle while the mayor lives a life of luxury. She needs to take responsibility for her actions now." As Henry's re-election bid looms, the crumbling infrastructure in Dune serves as a grim reminder what critics argue are her leadership shortcomings. Residents are now questioning whether a leader who has allowed their community to deteriorate can be trusted with another term in office. In response to the growing criticism, Henry has attempted to shift the narrative by unveiling a plan to offer 100% homeowner tax refunds to residents of Dune Township, presenting it as a way to alleviate financial hardship. However, this proposal has been met with skepticism. Many officials and locals have questioned the lack of detail and clarity surrounding the plan, particularly given the township's precarious financial situation. Trustee Chris Gonzalez, among others, expressed grave concerns, suggesting that the promise of full tax refund could be a political maneuver designed to distract from the ongoing financial mismanagement and scandals plaguing Henry's administration. Critics argue that with millions of dollars reportedly missing and the township facing a significant budget deficit, The promise of a tax refund seems more like a hollow attempt to salvage Henry's crumbling reputation rather than a genuine effort to alleviate residents' financial struggles. The lack of clarity on how such a program could be funded, especially without exacerbating the township's financial woes, has only intensified skepticism. Public discontent continues to rise, with the gap between Henry's ambitious proposals and the reality on the ground becoming more evident. Many locals argue that, under Henry's leadership, basic services in Dune have deteriorated. The state of the roads has worsened. Local schools are struggling to provide adequate resources, and vital public services are overburdened. The community's mounting dissatisfaction has been fueled by accusations of financial mismanagement, with whistleblower reports suggesting that federal funds meant for public welfare projects have been embezzled. Residents are now demanding accountability, as they grow increasingly frustrated with what they perceive as a lack of transparency in Henry's administration. As the situation escalates, residents are questioning whether Henry's leadership can effectively address the growing strain on the community. The public scrutiny has placed her under the spotlight, with critics suggesting that her failure to acknowledge the severity of the situation may ultimately lead to her downfall. Despite the mounting pressure, Henry has shown little inclination to back down, maintaining her stance as a resilient leader. Yet her defiance has done little to appease skeptics, who interpret her stubborn behavior as indicative of a greater indifference to the community's needs and concerns. Instead of focusing on resolving the town's issues, Henry continues to deflect attention with what many see as empty promises and political maneuvers. The proposed tax refund, although appealing on the surface, has been widely criticized as a diversionary tactic aimed at shifting the public's focus away from the deeper financial and administrative issues facing the township. Critics like Gonzalez argue that the plan is nothing more than a smokescreen to distract the public from the growing allegations of financial mismanagement, corruption, and scandal that have come to define Henry's tenure. As the community's disillusionment deepens, many residents feel deceived by the disconnect between Henry's rhetoric and the lived realities of the people she is supposed to serve. Dune has faced financial difficulty for years, with accusations of abuse and poor administration, leaving little hope that government subsidies or funding will provide the much-needed relief. The town's unfulfilled needs are glaringly obvious, from the decaying infrastructure to the struggling schools and overburdened public services. Against this backdrop, many residents are now convinced that Henry's defiance and promises of financial relief are disconnected from the harsh realities faced by her constituents. In their eyes, her leadership has failed to address the community's most urgent problems, and her continued resistance to public pressure has done little to alleviate widespread frustration. As the gap between Henry's promises and the tangible needs of Dune widens, her chances of maintaining public support appear to grow slimmer. With accusations of corruption and financial mismanagement continuing to build, the likelihood of facing serious political and legal consequences seems increasingly inevitable. Public anger continues to mount, and as residents demand accountability, many are beginning to wonder how much longer Henry can cling to power before the weight of her scandals and mismanagement forces her to step down.